Hello everyone, welcome to Eye on Africa. Here are your headlines on this Monday. Sudan's Attorney General opens an investigation into the military coup that brought former dictator Omar al Bashir to power in 1989. He says the move aims to discourage leaders from taking power by force. As France pays tributes to its soldiers killed last week, Malians accuse their government of not showing the same level of gratitude toward their soldiers killed in the fight against terrorism. 54 Malians were killed just last month in an attack on an army post. And how local volunteers and a South African NGO are mapping a floating slum in Nigeria. We'll have that story a little later on. But first, Sudan's Attorney General has announced an investigation that could bring serious charges against ousted dictator Omar al Bashir. The announcement centers around the military coup that brought al Bashir to power 3 decades ago. The former president is accused of war crimes by the International Criminal Court and is also facing charges for economic crimes in Sudan. So far, the new government has said he will not be extradited. Regional correspondent Julia Steers has more.
Sudan's Attorney General has announced the formation of a committee to investigate the 1989 military coup that overthrew the democratically elected Prime Minister Sadiq al-Mahdi and ushered in the reign of former dictator Omar al Bashir, who went on to lead for 30 years. Al Bashir stands accused of war crimes in Darfur by the ICC and of economic crimes in Sudan. He was deposed in April after months of protests against his rule. The Attorney General says he hopes that the decision will discourage this pattern in Sudan of government overthrow by force. The decision comes on the heels of the disbanding of al-Bashir's political party last week and of the loosening of Islamic laws that govern women's behavior in public. It also comes in a context in which the judiciary is trying to prove to the millions of Sudanese who supported the protest that it can be a part of this democratic transition to civilian rule. The investigation is expected to take up to 3 months, and if convicted, al-Bashir faces life in prison or death.
South Africa's Minister of Public Enterprises has said the country's flag carrier will undergo radical restructuring. Praveen Gordon and South African Airways' board are locked in intense discussions to secure a loan of at least 2 billion rand, that's over 120 million euros. The minister added that South African Airways could not continue in its current form. The airline signed a wage deal with trade unions just days ago, ending an 8-day strike. The company has been bleeding money in recent years and hasn't been profitable since 2011. The country's private banks have given their preliminary agreement to a loan, but have demanded the government guarantee that money will be reimbursed. 1 person has been killed and 5 others injured in a new protest against UN forces in the Democratic Republic of Congo. A journalist for Agence France Presse reports seeing police fire warning shots in an attempt to disperse the crowd of dozens of people that had gathered in the city of Beni. The head of the hospital's morgue confirmed 1 person had been fatally wounded by gunfire. Locals have accused MONUSCO, the UN's peacekeeping force, of failing to protect them from a deadly militia known as the Allied Democratic Forces. As France paid tribute today to the 13 soldiers killed in a helicopter crash in Mali last week, a much different story was unfolding in the Western African nation. Many Malians are angry that their president, Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, traveled to Paris to attend the ceremony, but did not show the same level of gratitude in recent months to the dozens of Malian soldiers killed in the fight against terrorism. Frank Hersey has more from Bamako.
Sentiments are as mixed here as they are in France. While Malians in general are very sorry for the French troops who were killed in the accident last week, there's been some sort of displeasure at the fact that their president has flown all the way to Paris to take part in the National French Memorial, whereas although Malian troops here have taken the brunt of the casualties, there hasn't been the same response here from the authorities. What we're seeing also in Mali is a growing anti-French sentiment. Sometimes politicians themselves even use this to whip up anti-French feeling as a sort of scapegoat for troubles going on here. This has sort of come to a head, and just on Saturday, the president, Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, came on national TV and delivered a national address calling for a sense of calm, stating that the country is at war, but also that you can't bite the hand that feeds you, referring there to France, who are the main party here trying to keep the peace. He also called for a national dialogue, a national inclusive dialogue, to begin mid-December here in Mali. This is to try and tackle all the various layers piled up on top of each other, which are contributing to this deteriorating security situation.
Across Africa, the birth of twins elicits wildly different responses from region to region. Some ethnicities or communities worship them, while others fear them, believing they're tainted with witchcraft. In the Ivory Coast, twin children are put to work begging outside mosques as people believe that offering them alms brings luck to the giver. France 24 Staysbourg has this report from Abidjan.
With matching skull caps topping off their matching outfits, these boys are dressed to impress. Every Friday, the day of prayer, around this mosque in a wealthy area, twin babies are brought by their mothers who ask for money.
Often you get people giving money because twins bring luck, and others give to help the person.
These mothers, using their children to attract attention, say they're not proud.
We are poor, that's why we're here to beg, and I feel ashamed.
In Ivory Coast, people often assign mystical powers to twins, such as being able to turn into snakes. Others believe that twin children will fall ill if they don't ask for money. The begging usually takes place outside of mosques, as charity giving is one of the 5 pillars of Islam.
These mothers do this because otherwise their children are going to fall ill. That's their ideology. At the same time, you've got those charlatans encouraging that. But Islam never advocates begging.
Over 1,000 twins are involved in begging in Abidjan. In extreme cases, they're offered as human sacrifices. Local association Twins and More regularly runs outreach activities with families.
We've helped over 350 children who've been affected and were on the streets. We've been able to take them off the streets and put them into school.
The charity managed to persuade the parents of these sisters. They stopped begging and found their way back to school.
I love learning. I want to do well at school. I want to be a doctor and to cure people.
These twins are just like any other kids and have the same dreams for the future. They do not include the mysterious powers that so many people assign to them.
Finally tonight, the floating slum of Makoko in Lagos is home to an estimated 300,000 residents, but officially it doesn't appear on any city planning documents or maps. That is about to change, though, thanks to a team of local volunteers and a South Africa-based NGO called Code for Africa. Using geolocalizing technology, they're navigating the waterways of Makoko to create a map of the neighborhood. They hope that will improve the lives of those living there.
Welcome to Makoko, a floating slum in the Nigerian megacity of Lagos. Officially, this part of the city does not exist. You won't find these dingy canals and ramshackle huts indicated on any city maps. But John and his team are trying to change that. Armed with their location-tracking smartphones, they crisscross these waterways with the aim of putting Makoko and its approximately 300,000 inhabitants on the map.
We are going around with a team made up of girls from Makoko to actually collect points of interest within their neighborhood, within their houses, to put this on the map so we can have multi-layers of points of interest on this map. So we can see the streets and have easy navigation, and all of this can be on the map for free.
John works for South Africa-based NGO Code for Africa, the organisation behind this drive to map out the slum and improve the lives of those who live here. Every point of interest is carefully entered into the system, like Watanabo, a floating barber shop.
So we're putting your barbing salon on the map. Yeah, to be part of the points of interest that people will see. When they look at Makoko map, they will see Watanabo.
Without property deeds, or in many cases, even a legal existence, the inhabitants of Makoko live with the permanent threat of eviction. For this local traditional leader, appearing on a map for the first time is a step towards cementing his people's place here.
Before, in Makoko, we were in the dark. But now, with the work you have done, us traditional chiefs can see that you have done a good job. We are only fishermen. We didn't know how to mark out the different neighborhoods. We are very happy.
John believes that the inhabitants of this part of the city should have access to the same knowledge of their neighborhood enjoyed by those who live elsewhere in Lagos.
All of this, we are still working on it, and when we are done, it will look like the rest part of Lagos here, where you can see streets, you see different places.
The public will now be able to see this neighbourhood differently, as the map is ready to go online.
All right, that does it for this edition of Eye on Africa. Thank you very much for watching. The news continues on France 24 right after this.